Hey everybody, so in today's video, I'm going to be covering how the collective, we were trapped in an artificial timeline from 2020 to 2024. So I'm going to give you all the details about how that was done and kind of why we're technically in 2021 right now and we're not really in 2025. So lots in this video. It'll be about 15 to 20 minutes long. And I'm looking forward to giving all the information that I was able to track down. And this has been years now that I've been aware of this, and I kind of always have been piecing the pieces of the puzzle together about kind of what happened and how it happened. And now that I'm fully aware, like 100% certain, based on channeling, remote viewing, about this timeline, I'm going to relay it to you guys because I'm convinced that we were in an artificial timeline, and I have gotten confirmation regarding the information that I've got. So where do I even begin? So in 2020, the collective, we were on track. 2020 was technically supposed to be 2024. Meaning, what kind of happened in 2024, that was supposed to be like the normal version of 2020. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys had like a lot of glitches with timelines last year, but there were, in 2024, I could have sworn on multiple occasions that I was like redoing 2020. Like it felt like we were literally like redoing 2020, and that was because the artificial timeline expired in 2024 that began in 2020. So why was this artificial timeline created? What I was able to gather was, yes, the elite, they installed an artificial timeline in 2020. Obviously, there was the pandemic that occurred and just chaos, right? Chaos that year. How were they able to do this artificial timeline? Through predictive programming. So they've had their plans for the artificial timeline for years as the last-ditch effort to control humanity and enslave humanity. So why were they planning to do it during 2020? Why? Why 2020? What was about 2020? What came forward was it was their last year to kind of stop the inevitable. Even though they knew they couldn't stop it, they wanted to put all their final power behind delaying it. So what did they do? They inserted an artificial timeline, which kept everything on pause for 4 years. So from 2020 up until 2024, we were on a collective pause. Technically, before the artificial timeline was inserted. 2024 was supposed to be the New Earth initiation year. 2024 was supposed to be the year of the galactic unveiling. 2024 was supposed to be the year that I've been saying ultimately is now going to be 2028. So everything obviously has just been pushed back by 4 years. That timeline was enacted in early 2020 and it expired in, I think it was it was weakening in 2022. Like I knew there were a lot, like I know I felt it weakening in 2022, and then 2023 obviously like glitched out and it was gone by 2024. So 2024 was like a course correction year where like technically we literally just had to get back on course from like being off the planetary timeline. So 2024 was ultimately what was supposed to happen in 2020. The elite did this knowing that they were going to be violating the laws of non-intervention. They did it knowing that it was going to backfire on them. But why? This is important. They knew that they knew they only had 4 years left. That's the thing. They could have only gotten away with it up until 2024. They knew that the time, like, we were going to eventually course correct after that 4-year artificial timeline that they installed. So it gets a little confusing, right? Because then when I say in July of 2025, technically we are right now, we are where we were supposed to be in July of 2021. Okay? So we have literally been on a 4-year pause due to the 2020, artificial timeline that lasted up almost like 4 full years. And that's why things have accelerated so much, especially in 2024, because not only are we course corrected, we are on an expedited timeline to 2028, which means things are going to be, these 4 years are going to go by much quicker than the 4 years before, because all those 4 years before was meant to do was slow down what's going to happen. And if all the powers that had left was to do that, then, it just shows that even if they knew that it wasn't going to succeed, they just want to slow everything down because they know it's going to happen either way. And that's why the information I've got, especially from, source, and especially obviously me being contracted with the Galactic Federation, the information that I've got is if the powers that were try to take us off course of what's coming, especially, in 2026, 2027, and 2028 being the real year that I've been talking about, that's when they will intervene and shut it down. So they can't take us off trajectory like they did in 2020. We are on the right timeline. But I wanted to just bring forward that technically we are in July of 2025. We are technically, if they did not hijack the timeline, right? If they did not hijack the timeline, we would be really of the consciousness of what's coming in July of 2029, the collective consciousness, right? If we weren't off course, let's say the timeline wasn't manipulated for those 4 years, we would be 4 years. We would have already, 2024, last year, was going to be the year that I've been talking about, which is 2028. That was supposed to happen last year. So not only in 2024 was I feeling that I was kind of back in 2020, there was a great chunk of 2024 where I was like, oh my goodness, we are in 2028. I'm seeing what is going to unfold. And that's why, when that artificial timeline glitched out, the doors have opened for the collective, for the highest good. And, we were off course for 4 years. And yes, the artificial timeline did slow down what was supposed to happen. I think one thing we could learn from it is they predictive programmed that timeline into us. So that's when I get it. That's why I'm going to be getting into predictive programming in my next video that I'm going to be releasing. Today, I'm just going to be talking about the artificial timeline. In my next video, I'm going to be going into predictive programming and how we can be aware of it so we're not creating their reality, because enough people back in 2020, they gave their power away to the Matrix and allowed that elite timeline to unfold, where we were totally just taken off course and they were allowed to get away with what they got away with, right? So in 2025, that's unable to occur because we're back on trajectory. 4 years ago, this time 4 years ago, they got away with everything. So ultimately, yes, it was the collective that chose that timeline, but it was us holding the elite timeline of, that artificial timeline that they installed for 2020. There was enough people predictive programming their reality where they were able to insert that timeline for the collective. And when I say collective, I'm not saying there hasn't been people who have broken free from everything and they're living in a different timeline currently in July 2025. I'm one of those people. I see the 2028 timeline. I personally feel like I feel right now I'm actually in 2029 and I'm waiting for the world to literally catch up to kind of what I know is going to be occurring, because even though the collective was in a different timeline, there were lots of starseeds, if they know it or not, they stayed in the real timeline. We are technically I'm in the timeline of July 2029, which is wild to believe, while so many others are in the timeline of July of 2021. If that makes any sense. But if you think about it, those who, even though, yes, the collective timeline was manipulated by 4 years, people's individual timelines have, with the ascension in the awakening, there were numerous starseeds and lightworkers who did not get sucked into the collective timeline that was that artificially installed timeline that occurred in 2020. So many of us are actually not, that's why when we feel we're waiting for the world to catch up to us, it's because, especially in 2020 with that timeline split, those who were creating the reality for the elite to artificially, slow the process down. This video's a lot. Those who are, basically being slaves to the elite, right? They were the ones who were pulled, 4 years, stuck, right? Not ascending, stuck in the artificial timeline that lasted about 4 years, while others who, I knew this was happening all along, and it was horrific knowing that it was happening all along, because I damn well knew we were in an artificial timeline, especially in 2024 when the artificial one ended, and then I'm like, wait, are we in 2028? Because I'm seeing everything unfold in for 2028, but the collective is in the timeline of 2021. This video's wild. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. What I'm saying is intense, and there has not been a lot of remote viewers or channelers, I know, that has brought this up, that we were in an artificial timeline. And karma did catch up to that timeline, because now we just have to rehash everything that was coming for 2021 to 2025. Right now, we're technically, the 3-year downfall was supposed to be 2021, 2022, and 2023. And that, real new Earth, galactic unveiling, full truth disclosure year was 2024, which was supposed to be last year. But with the hijacking of the timeline for the collective, that's why it's 2025, 2026, and 2027 as the downfall, and 2028 is going to be the year. I don't even know how to explain this to you guys any more clearly than I did. But I know that there are going to be some people who know what I am talking about, know about this artificial timeline, and how they got away with it. This was one of their last things they got away with. Yes, it was through predictive programming. Look at what they got away with, especially 2021 up until 2020 up until 2024. That was not in the planetary contracts at all. That's why when I said the 3 waves of the awakening were 2012, 2020, and 2028, it originally was supposed to be 2012, 2020, and 2024. But because that, the 3rd wave of the awakening was hijacked for the collective, yes, guys, there was a huge shift in 2024, but really it was what was supposed to occur in 2020. 2024 is now going to be 2028. And I saw both sides of it in 2024, and it was intense. But that's why now it's the 3 waves of awakening are 2012, 2020, and 2028. And I know, guys, they cannot hijack the timeline anymore. The timeline is set. That's why, especially the end of this year, or the next few months, leading into 2026 and 2027, heading up to 2028, you guys probably hear me over and over talking about this, because this is what I'm talking about. I'm literally just giving you guys the information on me from the, I'm not in the current timeline of this planet. I'm already in 2029. I'm 4 years ahead. Like, it sounds wild, I know, guys, but like, there's a lot of us who are stuck in the wrong timeline from that artificial timeline that they put in. And I just hope that the collective catches up soon, because whew, and they are gonna catch up, because in 2028 we're all gonna be on the same level again. The people who were stuck in the artificial timeline for 4 years, they are on the rapid four, like the timeline from 2024 to 2028. They're on the rapid, what's the word that I used? The accelerated timeline. That's why you see so many people who were so dead asleep even a year ago just abruptly waking up. Well, they are realizing that they may not know that they were on a holding pattern for 4 years, but you know, they're awakening very quickly. So next video, I am going to get deep into predictive programming, because that's a weapon that the elites have used to literally make us their slaves. And it's not happening anymore. It's over and done with. There's so much going on right now, guys. Just try not to feed the noise. Now's the time more than ever to dig into like your soul mission and what you're here to do, because the world is in chaos. And like I said, it's like people of the higher timeline are like watching people catch up to us, and it's pretty brilliant, because there are people who I never thought were gonna wake up that are saying the stuff that they're saying right now, like just, you know, online or whatever, and I'm just amused. So with that, this is going to be like the video just on kind of how we were in the artificial timeline. And in the next video that I'm going to be releasing in a couple of days is going to be the video on predictive programming, and how the elite, through media and education and every system, even just medical systems, even every system, like, you know, institution, have it's literally a weapon to create a reality, like keep the matrix held together for, you know, the powers that work. It'll be so good, guys. I'm still manifesting. I'm really manifesting, especially with this Epstein stuff right now. Like, all I hope for the collective is like, let's all come together and just like say it, guys. We know, like, let's just all piece it together. Reptilians and adrenochrome. That's how easy it is. That's how easy it is. Imagine we all came together and we are like, oh my goodness, guys, all this is reptilians and adrenochrome that can't, like, you know, we're literally slaves for the reptilians that are needing to run their adrenochrome operations to like feed the elite. Like, if we could all just come together right now in July of 2025 about that truth, instead of, you know, people just like needing to go down all these rabbit holes of into the 3D stuff with the story. I mean, if we all could just come to consensus, if we all could just, I guess this is asking a lot, but if we could all come together and be like, guys, it's literally just like a reptilian, satanic, you know, it's nothing new. That this is what this planet's about. This is their operation all along. This, like, adrenochrome, like, they are literally, we're slaves for their matrix. And like, I'm really hoping and praying that whatever comes out with this, because, you know, consciousness is the solution. The government isn't going to tell us anything. And I'm happy people are waking up to this. They're not going to tell us anything. It's consciousness. And if we could all come together and acknowledge, I mean, I obviously, you know, I'm a remote viewer. I know about that operation. And I know that starseeds are at the core of it. And I'm not going to get into that right now. I'll get into it when I'm ready to get into it. But when we could all just accept that truth, that it all just comes down to reptilians and adrenochrome, and we are all being pitted against each other, and if we come together, we could shut it down and create a whole new reality and ring in the new earth. Oh my God, guys, that's all I want. But unfortunately, you know, it's going to take, you know, upwards of the next, you know, 2 to 2.5 years to do that. So we're making progress. We're back on trajectory. But I'm happy that I was able to explain this, and I will see you guys in my next video that I'll be releasing in the next couple of days on predictive programming. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay well.